Hello. So when I tell people what I do, CEO of a company that helps couples who are struggling to have babies, they say to me, it must be very emotional. And even at dinner last night, we were talking about it's an emotional time in life. But actually, it's not the only emotional time in life. Whenever people are struggling with information and wanting to know what's going to happen next, then they look to their doctors or their clinicians or their family members to help them understand and to cope with these emotional times. And of course, fertility is not the only uniquely emotional condition. I've worked in healthcare diagnostics for over 20 years, and in my experience, most emotional times tend to be when people have the least information. You might have a serious illness, and you don't know what the prognosis is, and you don't know what the right treatment is likely to be, and you're given difficult choices. Or you might be a woman who's pregnant, and preclinical testing, prenatal testing suggests that there might be a genetic problem with your child, but you don't know 100% certainty as to whether or not that's something you need to act on. And in the case of DuoFertility, when we're helping women that are trying to get pregnant, they don't know the reason why they're not getting pregnant, and sometimes it's very difficult to understand those underlying conditions. And they've been trying for perhaps a year or two to get pregnant, and the doctors can't find anything wrong. And so this is where information through improved diagnostics and being able to monitor people continuously to get a sense of what's going on in their life on a day-to-day basis, and not just in that moment that they're in the doctor's office. This really helps us to improve what we can do. So the situation now is that you look around and you see information, you try and understand what's going on and how you can look after your health. And then when you start to have things that don't go right and you don't get the outcomes that you want, you start to ask questions. You might go to your doctor, and the doctor will then do tests, and he'll refer you to specialists, or he maybe treats you in his clinic. But all of this is based on what they can measure moment by moment with blood tests or scans or other measurements and taking your history. But we can see the opportunity to use digital health to be able to track people's health parameters in real time, in a continuous way, and in a non-invasive way. And this gives us guidance on what we can do to improve our health and the quality of our life. And linking this to what we call big data, which is taking wearable sensor technology and not only measuring you, but comparing you to other patients or to other populations, allowing us to identify what may be going on that's specific to you. And this can help us to guide better patient outcomes because we can come up with targeted approaches. So when I look at the examples of couples that we've helped, I'd like to introduce you to some of the stories of some of these patients, because it's very interesting to find out how they came to us and how they ended up getting pregnant. So Jodie is the lady in this picture, and she had been trying for 3 years to get pregnant with her second child, and it just wasn't happening. And eventually they decided that they'd have to go to IVF. And while they were waiting, and in the UK you have to wait as much as a year to qualify for IVF, while they were waiting for IVF, they heard about us. And using our body-worn temperature sensor, they found that there were temperature changes going on with Jodie after she had ovulated, which meant that she couldn't maintain the pregnancy. And this immediately was very clear from us. So we produced a fertility report. She took that to her doctor, and he was immediately able to prescribe the right hormone therapy for her to be able to get pregnant. And in the very next cycle, she got pregnant. So these are very addressable and real issues where people are just not able to find underlying medical reasons, and yet with sensor technology and with the right kind of real-time measurement and continuous measurement, we can guide doctors and guide patients in ways that they can improve their outcomes. This is baby Oakley, and his mum Joanne and dad Jamie had been trying again to conceive for many years. And they were given blood tests, and they were told that she simply wasn't ovulating, would never ovulate because of an underlying cause for her. So while she was waiting for fertility treatment, she also tried our sensor technology. And remarkably, it turned out that she had a very unusual cycle where her, the time that she was ovulating was very much delayed compared to textbook, compared to normal people. So without a means of measuring the moment at which she ovulates, it wouldn't be possible to guide her. And because with our technology, we actually do measure the actual event of ovulation, because ovulation occurs when there's a tiny temperature change, a tiny dip in temperature in a woman. And our sensor technology is able to pick that up. So we were able to identify what the specific cycle looked like for Joanne. And again, she was able to plan, and we got pregnant, and you can see that she had that success. Now, the third example I want to give you today is Cameron. And I'm going to let Cameron's mum, Debbie, tell you in her own words what her journey was like and how emotional this is.
We started trying for a baby in 2006, and we had 3 rounds of IVF, the second of which worked, the other 2 didn't, but then I miscarried. And then I found DuoFertility at the fertility show at Olympia in 2010. And then I fell pregnant with Cameron in August 2011, and he's going to be 11 months very soon. And I'm so grateful to DuoFertility because I really believe he wouldn't be here without him. He's an absolute joy and a delight. And I'm especially grateful because when I fell pregnant with him, we actually had an appointment pending to go to an IVF clinic for egg donation. And so I wouldn't have had my own child without DuoFertility.
So parents of these miracles didn't just need a miracle. They needed better data, they needed better prediction, they needed better diagnosis. And that is really how we're able to help, we think, with digital monitoring. Because it's the continuous monitoring, looking for subtle changes in what's going on in people's bodies that really helps to understand. And it's not just these patients. 1 in 6 people have fertility issues during their life. And some couples, we know, are medically infertile, and they need to go to techniques like IVF, or if they have to have sperm donation or egg donation, or even surrogacy. So digital health won't help people that have, serious clinical issues. But there are other opportunities, because there's a little known issue of unexpected infertility. Excuse me, my throat. At the moment, I've got a sore throat. And what that means is that these people can't identify an underlying cause for their infertility. And therefore, through the use of data and data analytics, we're able to look at their profiles and advise them. And it means that not everybody needs to go to IVF. And as many as 1 in 3 people that do go to IVF maybe needn't have done that, and they could have got pregnant naturally. And for us, our goal as a company is to give people the choice to be able to maximize their chances to get pregnant naturally. Can I have the next slide, please? So in terms of the data, there's actually quite a lot of underlying data that's involved in capturing the information that we need for women. So we're able to provide them with a guide, with a template for what their cycle looks like. And you can see the data points of the temperature moving along the month, and then you can see the green zone where we identify people's most fertile days. And we can give them advance notice of this 6 or 10 days ahead of when they're going to ovulate. So now people can plan, especially if they're traveling or involved in jobs where they're apart for many times of the month. And that happens to many of us now, particularly as we move and travel around the world with our work. And interestingly, when people are committed to doing something, so what gets measured gets done. And as people are committed to measuring their body parameters, and they see the results of their data every day, they also want to put more information in, so they start to monitor other aspects of their health and their well-being. And it's the combination of parameters we measure, the multi-parameters that we measure from people's bodies, not only temperature, but movement and other parameters, but also what people measure themselves about their daily lives, whether they're ill or not, and how they're feeling. And all of those parameters together inform the way in which we can improve the diagnosis and recommend solutions for them. So our sensor is something that's worn under the arm, and you'll see lots of different digital health solutions that could be, as we're hearing, watches that can measure movement and parameters. There are the fitness monitors that are really encouraging people to get out and get walking and moving. In our case, we actually measure temperature, and we make 10,000 measurements a day of a woman's temperature. And we correct that for things that will interfere with the temperature. So we correct for things like sleep disturbance, and we collect for whether or not people are ill and have an infection, and that's causing them to have a temperature. And we also correct for other parameters of people's health that might affect their data. And looking at that whole picture from multiple parameters allows us to help people to get outcomes. And for us, it's all about outcomes. It's about how we can guide people with better information and earlier diagnosis, and in the case of ovulation, to look for the subtle changes in the body that tell women when they can plan for a baby. And when we look at the data-driven landscape, much easier to identify yourself and what the right treatment is for you when you know what person you are, what patient you are, what patient category you fall in. So one of the important things that we also look for is being able to identify which category of patient you're in. So are you a patient that has a delayed cycle or an early cycle? Are you a patient that has a very low ovulation response because you've got very weak hormone levels? Are you somebody that's getting pregnant and can't maintain the pregnancy? And through these kinds of data analytics, we're able to understand what underlying causes are. And this will be the beginning of where digital health, I think, will help enormously in people's health and well-being. Because armed with people's history and their data, doctors can start to look at the patterns in the data. We produce fertility reports after about 2 to 3 months of monitoring a woman's fertility and her cycle, and those reports go to their doctors and physicians, and that allows them to prescribe the right treatment from their doctor's office for that patient. And what we believe in the future is going to be that it'll be tailored solutions, so the treatments and the planning that people can do will be tailored to their unique condition and not just what the textbooks say or what the general view is. And in the case of ovulation, the textbooks would say it's a 28-day cycle and you ovulate on a particular day of that month. It doesn't take into account the variation of other people. And this allows us to get to what we believe targeted outcomes means. For us, targeted outcomes, of course, are women having babies. But it's not just data that's going to help. One of the key parts of what we do is actually to talk with women and to guide them and help them. And we think that the support aspect, the emotional aspect of what you can do with data monitoring and digital health is important. And it's the support that comes from that. And that's hard to do when you only go to see your doctor once or twice a year. But getting that feedback and getting that information and being able to understand how to change things in your life based on what you're hearing and seeing. And we've heard about geographic information causing you to make changes in your life. And there are other ways that I think digital health will cause people to be more aware of their health and well-being and make informed choices based on data rather than just guesswork. So sensor technology plus big data, and big data analytics is dealing with referencing you to millions of other people so that we can work out who you are and what your unique problem or solution is. And that linking with support really does give us successful outcomes. And in our case, successful outcomes are being able to get results that are very comparable to medical interventions for women trying to get pregnant. But when I joined DuoFertility, Cambridge Temperature Concepts, it wasn't just fertility that I could see that we could help. Because in order to do the data monitoring for fertility, we had to solve problems like sleep disturbance and make adjustments or accommodations for selecting data that hadn't been affected by sleep disturbance. So then it makes you think how much we could do to help people understand underlying causes of issues like sleep disturbance. This is one of the next projects that we're working on now. And then other areas like pain management. So if you're in pain, it very often causes sleep disturbance, and we know sleep disturbance causes lots of other aspects of illness and really affects people's well-being. So being able to look at multiple aspects of your body, not only your fitness and what you're eating, but also things that are going on inside your body. And temperature is a leading indicator for a number of medical conditions. And so pain management, dealing with sleep disturbance, which we know affects people's well-being. All of these are opportunities and ways in which we can use digital health, and it allows us to give people very selected, targeted recommendations based on real data, and real data about them, data that we've got that's quantitative and speaks to their underlying conditions. And by being able to report that data and continuously give that update, that connects patients with their practitioners, and practitioners can see what's been going on in a patient and quickly make decisions about treatments or advice that they can give to improve that. And ultimately, we believe that this is about more choice and better outcomes. And for us, there are no better outcomes than all of the women who have got pregnant using digital health and using temperature and body sensing. And I'd like to thank all of the parents who allowed us to tell their stories and to bring this to you today. Thank you very much.